Now, welcome to a review of Picard Season 3, though something tells me this might morph into a little more than that, into a kind of a comparison video.
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about Mando. Jeez.
Well, I think we will get there. But anyway, no, we both watched Season 3 of Picard. For a little background reference, I'm a pretty big Star Trek fan. I loved Next Generation growing up, seen all the movies, seen the original series when I was very young with my father. So I know a good bit about Star Trek. I'm not a super fan or a Trekkie by any stretch, so...
I probably don't have as extensive a viewing as you. Picard was always my favorite captain. I did watch a fair bit of that. Never really got into Kirk, didn't jive with me very well, but I like Janeway quite a bit too.
Yeah, I like Deep Space Nine as well. Voyager was good. I've seen Enterprise, bits of it. I don't think I've seen all of Enterprise. And when it comes to the new stuff, I've tried to watch it. I tried to watch the first 2 seasons of Picard and just could not get into it.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear literally anything good about the first 2 seasons of Picard.
No, what I saw wasn't... It just didn't feel like Star Trek. But anyway, to get into it, I mean, I was blown away by Season 3 of Picard. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I thought perhaps a bit heavy-handed with the Easter eggs and nostalgia at times.
It kind of needed some of that, I think.
But
After the first few seasons butchered it.
Well, not that that's inherently a bad thing, but sometimes it's like, oh my goodness, you're trying a little too hard to
So you
the
thought
callbacks and stuff.
the cameos were heavy-handed, kind of like a Mando Season 2 situation?
No, it was different from that because none of the characters in Star Trek were like kind of foreign to the Next Generation crew. I mean, Luke showing up in Mando, Ahsoka, they're not like associated with, not that Mando has a deep, rich history, mind you, not that Din Djarin has a deep, rich history, I should say. So all of the cameos here make sense.
Right, they're people who he was familiar with, people he would turn to in a crisis, maybe.
Yeah. Rolla Aaron was, really interesting to see. She was, you probably don't remember her from... and they kind of had this resolution with that, which I thought was really cool.
Oh, yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just probably not something that a lot, if you didn't really get into the Next Generation, you probably don't know her. So,
but it was good because they still explained it enough that you could empathize
still
and
figure it
feel
out, yeah.
the deep emotions behind the scene.
So it's like all the cameos make sense. I mean, well, some of them felt a little, maybe, because there were cameos all across the Star Trek. I'm sure I missed probably a ton of them too, but there were cameos or just Easter eggs, I should say, everywhere.
Well, and it makes sense that Starfleet, not just the Enterprise D crew, would continue. That, of course, we would see other people across the Starfleet who have risen to prominence. So I'm perfectly fine with them name-dropping some across other shows. Made sense.
Yeah, and then they did bring in other characters as well from, I think, the newer Picard seasons.
Yes.
And the 7 of 9, who is, of course, not Next Generation. She's from Voyager. She was, prominently featured in this as well. I thought had a good little arc. I mean, a really good arc, actually, with the, her captain from the Titan and all that. So I was really impressed.
Worf was really good, too.
Worf was taken up to, like, 11 in this, because he was known for kind of saying some things that were humorous, but they would never push the envelope. I mean, there was no profanity in Next Generation. There were no... I mean, not none, but very few kind of sexual innuendos and things like that. Whereas here, like his comment about, well, I'll make it a threesome, and Riker's like, do you even hear yourself?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of moments where they kind of pushed it a little further than Next Generation did, which just kind of made it, humorous.
He felt a little like Bortus from Orville at times.
A little bit like that, yeah.
But in a good way.
No, not in a bad way. I didn't mind it at all. I think the only thing I didn't like was when he decapitated the Ferengi guy early in the season. It's a kind of a Klingon thing where you don't kind of kill weaklings or inferior beings. It's kind of one of their things. So a little irked by that, I guess. But that was probably the only thing where I was really like, I didn't like that.
I liked the story arcs. I liked how everything tied together very nicely. Tied on story arcs from the original Star Trek that I could identify with, that I could remember, while making a really good story. A lot of things that I saw in this season were they were beautifully well done callbacks to relationships that you may have thought you saw, but they never really 100% were like, Picard and Crusher.
Picard and Crusher.
Totes.
Well, I think we all assumed that was...
We all thought, but they kept it very... I don't know, they kind of kept it down on the DL a lot of the times.
They did, yeah.
So it was nice to see that went somewhere, and it was a sad thing that she kept it from him.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine in a real circumstance, Picard would probably be a little more upset about not being told about his son.
Probably, but with the situation as it was, he was just grateful to know him. So
yeah, no, and that's the thing about the series. Like, there were new elements introduced. It wasn't just like nostalgia fest. Mm-hmm. There was a story here. There was a really good story, and it challenges the new character, or it challenges the old characters, I should say. It wasn't just, oh, it's going to be this fun adventure, and it's all going to be lighthearted and kind of silly, and we're not really going to challenge your thoughts or your perspectives on these old characters. They do that.
Well, and it was a really good evolution of their enemies, the changelings as well as the Borg.
If you would have told me what this was before I watched it, that they were going to bring in the Borg and the Dominion or the changelings and all of these things, I probably would have been like, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster.
Right, because it just sounds too full.
It's too full, messy. Too kind of corny, too messy, but it worked very well.
I was very surprised with how well that all worked.
No, I was stunned, actually.
It's interesting that you have 3 seasons of Picard, and it was like bad, dumpster fire, really, really good. It felt like a really nice, solid, clean ending for Picard's story.
For all of them.
Yet, they gave it a really good jumping off point if they want to maybe continue the show now following his son and maybe him changing his name to being a Picard, or
just keeping the Crusher name, yeah. Either way. Yeah,
keeping the Crusher name, maybe changing the season or changing the show and this being a spin-off from Picard. But it was well done.
I'm going to be upset if they don't go anywhere with it. I liked 7 of 9, and I've always liked her. She's been fine in Voyager and all that, too. I liked the new, Rafa, I think was her name. I can't remember what her name is.
Yeah, it's Rafa.
Yeah, I thought she was good in this with Worf.
She was really cool. I liked Geordi's daughter.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
He had both his daughters were in there, yeah.
Yeah, as well as, of course, Jack Crusher. I thought he was a really interesting character, and I'm curious how his experiences, how things that have affected him will go on. Does he still have some of the abilities that he has?
Some of the Borg stuff going on?
Yeah. I mean, he still is a beacon that's built into his DNA. How much of that did they get rid of?
Can they remove with the transporter
Especially
thing? Yeah.
Considering that we find out that Jean-Luc still had pieces of Locutus in him, even though he's in a new body, he still has that connection. You just couldn't get rid of that.
Yeah. We also saw Q show up at the bitter end, who was, of course, always a kind of an adversary, antagonist, sometimes friend to our old Jean-Luc Picard.
Oh, yeah, that was really good. But another thing to talk about was Data.
Data, I mean,
that
Brent
was
Spinner is
heart-wrenching and emotional and beautiful.
I love Brent Spinner, how he goes from that one episode where he's lore, going from lore to Data to the other one, the B3 or whatever it's called. I'm probably butchering the name.
Yeah, going back and forth from lore to Data. Data giving him his memories.
And then he kind of merges them all. Dude is a fantastic actor. No, it was...
When you think that Data's just going to be gone and you're like, oh no.
Or is it B4? Is that what his name is? Anyway, that one, from the movie.
Yeah, that guy.
The one with the clone of Picard in it that the Romulans made. Yeah, anyway, let's not talk about that.
But it's funny because you can compare it a little bit to we've now had 3 seasons of The Mandalorian, because everyone loves to compare Star Wars and Star Trek. Probably because they both say Star. That's my guess.
Because they feel like, for an outsider, they probably sound like they're very similar when they couldn't be any more different.
They're very different.
Well, yeah, the idea behind Star Trek, I think, is that human beings have kind of put their own differences aside and are now collectively exploring the galaxy and bringing in other cultures. And
I like that beautiful look at the future where money isn't an issue. We can concentrate on expanding and improving ourselves throughout the galaxy.
Improving ourselves as a species, too, not even on the individual basis. I think human beings here on Earth have yet to get over the idea of, the individual. Not saying we should all be a collective, not implying we should be the Borg, but I think there is a balance between, to bring in Star Wars, there's a balance between the self and the whole, and a lot of human beings don't find that balance so well.
But it's just kind of funny because the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian were very good seasons. They did the cameos as well, a little different because they were characters unknown to our main character. But then you moved into season 3 and everything got really just sloppy and a little bit messy. Yeah, it was just kind of a surface level fun, good time, I guess. But everything felt very disjointed at times, both in tone and just story, I guess you could say, which is kind of the opposite because I feel like those are part of some of the problems that Picard seasons 1 and 2 struggled with.
From what I understand, yeah. And the little I saw, it just didn't resonate with me at all. Whereas this, it was sad, leading up to the finales, did I want to see Mando or Picard's finale more? I don't even know. I hate to say that as of course a diehard Star Wars fan, but Picard, that was emotional. There's far more emotion.
So would you say that both Picard and the Bad Batch season finales were more enjoyable than the Mandalorian season finale?
Absolutely. And that's not to say the Mando season finale was bad. it's actually decent in some ways, but it didn't have the emotion. But anyway, going back to Picard, I think that's how you handle nostalgia characters like that. How you handle legacy characters, I should say. Yeah, I mean, we could continue to make comparisons to Star Wars and other legacy characters and how they were used. Kind of speaking of that, like one of the reasons we didn't really see Luke in The Force Awakens, for example, is because of the fear of overshadowing the new characters. Yet, I don't feel like Picard ever overshadowed its newer characters.
No.
I think you could have these legacy, big, larger-than-life characters like a Jean-Luc Picard, and you can actually bring in other characters, brand new characters, and not completely have them outshined. It's all about how you intertwine them with the legacy characters. And I think if you just, I hate to go there, but I mean, you just make Rey Luke's daughter the same way you made Jack Picard's son.
No, you have a good point. There were a lot of missteps in the sequel trilogy. I mean, we're not here to beat that dead horse, but
beat the rotted and decayed corpse.
That thing's already decomposing somewhere. It's gone.
Yeah.
Until they make another movie, then we'll have to talk about it all over again.
Pull that horse's corpse out.
No, but I feel like they definitely treated, especially in this season particularly, they treated their legacy characters with the reverence they deserved, showcasing that they still had skills, the skills that they once showed in their original show, without overshadowing them with the new generation and without them overshadowing them either.
Yeah, that was a good balance.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't imply that because they were all old that they had all given up on everything in life. Though they did have their problems. It wasn't all peachy.
No, they all had problems and issues and things that were going on, and
yeah, you can do a balance between challenging them with new things and making them have regrets in the past, but not hating everything about their legacy. Mm-hmm. They actually celebrate their legacy on multiple occasions, kind of making, especially Riker and Picard, making kind of little quips about, blowing stuff up and, well, this isn't going to be fun because we're, it's just a boring mission or whatever it might be. So you can have characters embrace that legacy, embrace their past, instead of just having to regret everything and make them, break them in order to reforge them into something new, which is this kind of new trend I think we're seeing. But anyway, I think that's going to be all we got for you this time. So now it's your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of Picard Season 3. And let's talk some Star Trek. And until next time, thanks for watching.